Welcome to the America 20XY Week in Review. Today is Saturday, November the 28th, 2009. I am your host, Andrew Steele. Now, it's been a few weeks since I did one of these shows, so we got a lot to catch up on. Leading off this week's episode, we have an article from CBS. It's all over the internet, but CBS is probably the most mainstream American news agency to carry this. Congress may probe leaked global warming emails. This was written by Declan McCullough. A few days after leaked email messages appeared on the internet, the U.S. Congress may probe whether prominent scientists who are advocates of global warming theories misrepresented the truth about climate change. Senator James Inhofe, an Oklahoma Republican, said on Monday the leaked correspondence suggests researchers, quote, cooked the science to make this thing look as if the science was settled, when all the time, of course, we knew it was not. The leaked documents come from Climatic Research Unit of the University of East Anglia in eastern England. It claims the world's largest temperature data set, and its work and mathematical models were incorporated into the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's 2007 report. That report, in turn, is what the Environmental Protection Agency acknowledged it relies on most heavily when concluding that carbon dioxide emissions endanger public health and should be regulated. Last week's leaked emails show that some of the field's most prominent scientists were so wedded to theories of man-made global warming that they ridiculed dissenters who asked for copies of their data, cheered the deaths of skeptical journalists, and plotted how to keep researchers who reached different conclusions from publishing in peer-reviewed journals. One email message, apparently from CRU Director Phil Jones, references the UK's Freedom of Information Act when asking another researcher to delete correspondence that might be disclosed in response to public records law. And then we have a quote from one of the emails saying that global warming skeptics have been after the CRU station data for years. If they ever hear there's a Freedom of Information Act now in the UK, I think I'll delete the files rather than send to anyone. In addition to email messages, the roughly 3,600 leaked documents posted on sites including wikileaks.org and eastangliaemails.com include computer code and a description of how an unfortunate programmer named Harry, possibly the CRU's Ian Harry Harris, was tasked with resuscitating and updating a key temperature database that proved to be problematic. Now, there's a lot of stories on the internet about this, so you can do a quick Google search to find out more for yourself. But this is likely to affect the Copenhagen World Government Conference that's going to be happening this December. So in anticipation of that and the protests that are most definitely going to occur, we have an article from The Guardian. Denmark approves new police powers ahead of Copenhagen. This is by Felicity Carouse. The Danish parliament today passed legislation which will give peace sweeping powers of preemptive arrest and extend custodial sentences for acts of civil disobedience. The deeply worrying law comes ahead of the UN climate talks, which start on 7th of December and are expected to attract thousands of activists from next week. Under the new powers, Danish police will be able to detain people for up to 12 hours whom they suspect might break the law in the near future. Protesters could also be jailed for 40 days under the hurriedly drafted legislation dubbed by activists as the Turmoil and Riot Law. The law was first announced on October the 18th. The Danish Ministry of Justice said that the new powers of preemptive detention would increase from 6 to 12 hours and apply to international activists. If protesters are charged with hindering the police, the penalty will increase from a fine to 40 days in prison. Protesters can also be fined an increased amount of 5,000 krona, that equates to 671 euros apparently, for breach of the peace, disorderly behavior, and remaining after the police have broken up a demonstration. Now, while that's going on in Denmark, we have this going on at home. Obama quietly backs Patriot Act provisions. This was written by William Fisher of antiwar.com on November 24th. With the healthcare debate preoccupying the mainstream media, it has gone virtually unreported that the Barack Obama administration is quietly supporting renewal of provisions of the George W. Bush-era USA Patriot Act that civil libertarians say infringe on basic freedoms. And it is reportedly doing so over the objections of some prominent Democrats. Those provisions would have unaltered the power of the Federal Bureau of Investigations to seize records and to eavesdrop on phone calls and email in the course of counterterrorism investigations. The parts of the Act due to expire on December 31st deal with 1. National security letters. The FBI uses NSLs, that's what they're called, to compel Internet service providers, libraries, banks, and credit reporting companies to turn over sensitive information about their customers and patrons. Using this data, the government can compile vast dossiers about innocent people. 2. The Material Support Statute. This provision criminalizes providing material support to terrorists, defined as providing any tangible or intangible good, service, or advice to a terrorist or designated group. As amended by the Patriot Act and other laws since September 11th, this section criminalizes a wide array of activities, regardless of whether they actually or intentionally further terrorist goals or organizations. And 3. FISA Amendments Act of 2008. This past summer, Congress passed a law that permits the government to conduct warrantless and suspicionless dragnet collection of U.S. residents' international telephone calls and emails. Asked by IPS why Committee Chairman Senator Patrick Leahy of Vermont and other Democrats chose to make only minor changes, Chip Pitts, president of the Bill of Rights Defense Committee, referred to the secret and hypocritical lobbying by the Obama administration against reforms while publicly stating receptiveness to them. White House pressure, he speculated, was undoubtedly a huge, if lamentable, factor. Now, while Obama's fighting the war against the American people here at home, Blackwater is fighting the war for him in Pakistan. Now, we have this article by Jeremy Scahill that came out in The Nation on November the 24th. It's a really long article, and I'm not going to read the whole thing here. I'll just read the first couple paragraphs of it. You can find it online. Again, just do a Google search or go to America20XY.com. At a covert forward operating base run by the U.S. Joint Special Operations Command in the Pakistani port city of Karachi, members of an elite division of Blackwater are at the center of a secret program in which they plan targeted assassinations of suspected Taliban and Al-Qaeda operatives, snatch and grabs of high-value targets, and other sensitive action inside and outside Pakistan. An investigation by the Nation has found. The Blackwater operatives also assist in gathering intelligence and help run a secret U.S. military drone bombing campaign that runs parallel to the well-documented CIA Predator strikes, according to a well-placed source within the U.S. military intelligence apparatus. The source, who has worked on covert U.S. military programs for years, including in Afghanistan and Pakistan, has direct knowledge of Blackwater's involvement. He spoke to the Nation on condition of anonymity because the program is classified. The source said that the program is so compartmentalized that senior figures within the Obama administration and the U.S. military chain of command may not be aware of its existence. And then it goes on. Now, this reminded me of an article I had seen a few weeks before. This was on Raw Story, so I found it. It says, Taliban, Blackwater to blame for Pakistan attacks. This is on November 18th. The Pakistani arm of the Taliban has denied responsibility for a recent series of terrorist attacks in Pakistan, instead pointing the finger at Z Services, a security contractor formerly known as Blackwater, as well as the country's own security services. The Tehreek-e-Taliban are not responsible for the bombings, but Blackwater and Pakistan's spy agency are behind them, said Pakistani Taliban spokesman Azam Tariq, according to a translation from Al Jazeera English. The dirty Pakistani intelligence agencies, for the sake of creating mistrust and hatred among people against the Taliban, are carrying out blasts at places like the Islamic University, Islamabad, and the Khyber Bazaar, Peshawar. The Associated Press quoted Tariq as saying, the Taliban's new talking point is likely an attempt to capitalize on anti-American conspiracy theories circulating among the Pakistani public. Blackwater's operatives are often viewed by Pakistanis as akin to CIA agents, and local conspiracy theories sometimes assert that the U.S., with the help of Blackwater rather than the Taliban, are responsible for the suicide attacks, reports the Christian Science Monitor. CNN reports that Blackwater denies having any contracts in Pakistan.